So, Season 8 of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic has started. In this video, I'll go over my thoughts about the first two episodes named School Days. Before anything else, obviously the elephant in the room is that the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic movie is canon, with all that it entails. All the characters, all the locations, everything. As far as what, at least for now, has been actually added to the series, it's actually not that much. Pretty much only hippogriffs. And that's kind of a problem, because it's not really, even though we have like a cliff notes at the start, it's not really explained for people who haven't watched the movie. So people who have watched the movie didn't really get much, except hippogriffs, and people who haven't watched the movie are just really confused. After that, we get kind of teased with, oh, the map has been expanded, but I find it most likely that there will be no more exploring beyond the limits of the map, because there's just so much stuff now, and all the rumors kind of indicate that Season 9 probably is the last one. And so we are making a school of friendship. And the first challenge is immediately getting school accredited by the Equestria Education Association. That is a board of learned ponies. I found it very interesting, and I was really glad to hear it, that Celestia said not even a princess can do whatever she likes when it comes to shaping young pony minds. Celestia's kind of universal power has always been a little bit strange for me, but not really a problem, but I'm always glad to hear of kind of this more decentralized power structure. Also, a small note was that when Celestia explained about ponies studying all kinds of things, she pretty much alluded to unicorns study magic, Pegasi study weather, and earth ponies study agriculture. Which I thought is kind of a shame, because you're just pigeonholed into a certain role, but also not a big deal. We can just take it as the default, but there's still options to do whatever you want if you want to. And as Twilight is actually visiting the EEA, she gets asked about whether she'll have time to take care of a school, or will she gallop off on her adventures, which I thought was a really good question, which Twilight completely dodged and instead went for like a pretty interesting politician style. Oh yes, but there's danger out there. Focus on the danger out there. I don't think it was like very intentional, but it came off like really manipulative, I thought. And on the topic of getting too real, the whole theme of the premiere being that rules and regulations are just arbitrarily created by someone in power to essentially control something, which just isn't true, because for the most part rules and regulations are a result of learning from past mistakes and putting research into effect, which kind of kept bothering me the whole episode. But I understand that this is Equestria and things aren't as serious as real life, and in MLP, as long as you do things from your heart, they'll just work out, which is fine. And as a last entry in the getting too real list is that ponies like pay taxes, I assume, to finance education, and I assume Twilight's using these funds, so there's no oversight. It's kind of but again, I'm just being nitpicky, of course. The next topic is the school itself, and the design is indeed, like Rainbow Dash says, too much. Twilight herself putting her image everywhere and the elements of harmony, symbolism. And other than that, as fancy as it is actually not particularly personable until the end, until it mostly was the last song that showed a lot of interesting rooms and kind of locations around the school. That was cool. I hope they keep with kind of those places rather than what we saw most of the episode, which were like awkward hallways and just like generic classrooms. It was very visible that there are busts of the pillars of Equestria all around the school, mostly I guess in the main hall. And I was kind of curious, will the pillars eventually during the season join and help teaching? Because that would be interesting. That would be a good way to kind of bring them back into the story. Or will they just pretty much not appear again, aside from like one-off episodes, which wouldn't surprise me. I was also quite curious to where do the students that don't live in Ponyville live? Is there like dorms, or will they live in Twilight's castle, which we know is pretty big and has a lot of rooms? In general, the school is something that will definitely... we need to see more of the school to see what it's all about. I'm looking forward to it, definitely. So, maybe I should have talked about him under the EA, but Chancellor, I say. Voiced by Maurice LaMarche, an amazing voice actor. And he seems to be the symbol of two things: racism and kind of very oppressive bureaucracy. And both of them kind of worry me. Racism because it's, especially nowadays, it's a very popular topic, and for a good reason, and it's good that it's talked about, but very often there's like no nuance with it. If a character is racist, then they're bad, everything they do is bad, any action they do, any opinion they hold is connected with the racism and portrayed in a negative light. At least that's how it's often used. I hope that won't be the case here, and obviously, I mean, it's MLP. They're gonna bring him to the friendship side by the end, hopefully. And bureaucracy, again, I already talked about it a little bit, and it also is under the same problem, which is that very one tone. And it was actually very one tone here, where it's just random rules that are just there to control, and it's bad. So that wasn't nice. Probably the least favorite thing about this episode was this view on bureaucracy. But there is potential, definitely. I hope that he is redeemed, because small kind of bits of dialogue show that he does care, at the very least, only for ponies. He is very adamant about the pony way of life, about them defending themselves, and he also clearly takes his work seriously, although he might be a bit, again, oppressive. Oh no, students can't ever skip class, etc., etc. He does care. He gives me a little bit of the same vibe as Starlight did in 5th season, of someone that doesn't have just selfishness in them, that there is that part of them that cares for others. And honestly, I expect more appearances from him during the season. I have a gut feeling that he won't be the season finale villain. On the other hand, he could be. The fancy magic that he has demonstrated is kind of a sign that maybe they want to keep using his magic, and maybe he'll do some bad things with it, especially if he wants to defend the way of life, and with that he found some source of power. So it could go either way, obviously, but my gut is telling me that he's not going to be the main season finale villain. Next up, students. The character designs pretty good, nothing to complain about. Also nothing to impress, but very good, very fine. The kind of minimalist designs are very characteristic of MLP, and it's something I like. I said this during my reaction, but the personalities for the non-ponies are quite stereotypical. But I also said that the premiere isn't really focused that much on the students. It's still the main six and their problems being teachers and with the school. So I'll reserve my judgment about the personalities of the students until we get some more episodes with them. But I'd say if I have to pick, my favorite thus far would be Silverstream. Her voice actress is doing a great job. Her dialogue was great. It's just really fun character. At the same time, Ocellus, I guess, made the strongest impression, being able to transform into multiple different creatures, being kind of the brainiac of the group. I really look forward to kind of the group dynamics between the students being more developed. The highest potential for me currently is Sandbar, because we don't really know that much about him, and he seems fairly well informed about the main six and their exploits, which is something that isn't really a thing. Sure, people know Twilight because she's the princess of friendship, but all throughout the series, it's often been a point that ponies don't really know the elements of harmony, the kind of the rest of the main six. The only time I can recall when someone like, oh, it's you guys, that's amazing, is Viva Las Pegasus, where the owner of the casino kind of treated Applejack and Fluttershy like celebrities somewhat. But maybe I'm just reading too into it. Either way, I'm looking forward to Sandbar probably the most. I really want to see what he's about. Because I also think he's the only one who can still like hide some interesting plot elements in his sleeve, because the rest of the creatures are just members of their species and representatives. I'm also slightly curious about what is the age of the students. They're not fillies, but they also don't seem like full-grown creatures. So it's kind of strange. Teenagers, I guess. And lastly, the students don't seem to have an antagonist. Because Chancellor Naysay is definitely Twilight's and the main six antagonist. I don't think there was ever a point where he directly talked to the students or students talked to him. So I'm curious whether the school is going to have like a Diamond Tiara equivalent. We can only wait and see. Or all of the student episodes are just going to be conflicts among themselves, and it's still going to be the main six on the forefront. Either way would be interesting. So on the topic of the main six, like the big question is, do the main six even have time to be teachers? And the answer is, shut up, this is the setup for this season, essentially, because they really don't, but I get that it's fine. Let that be the setting of the season. It's not a big deal. It's not gonna kill the canon that the main six doing 100 things at the same time. It's fine. I'm kind of curious though to what are they even teaching, and really looking forward to seeing kind of what I would expect to be respective episodes for each of the main six and their adventures as teachers. Because from what we've seen, the biggest impression was for me Rainbow Dash with like Trust Fall, because that seemed to be kind of like a loyalty and trust and friendship kind of thing, very appropriate. Fluttershy, of course, with kindness towards animals, that's always there. Pinky, like, teaching how to throw parties. I don't know. But especially Applejack and Rarity, like, what are you even teaching? Rarity just teaches how to make dresses, I guess. How is that relevant? And Applejack, even the creators kind of poking fun at Applejack, just going, apples, apples, apples. Screw everything else. It's like, okay, I guess. Well, we'll see how that turns out. Twilight didn't really surprise me that she kind of messed everything up. She has always been the book horse, I have a rule book for everything sort of deal. So it doesn't surprise me that she was very trusting of the EEA guidelines and tried to follow them to the letter, which turned out to be a pretty big disaster. So yeah, I think it was it was really funny to see how confident and calm she was, at least on the exterior, even to the point where Spike pointed it out that it's highly weird. There's also probably the element of Twilight herself being kind of like, yeah, studying, so she doesn't really see a problem with a more rigid curriculum. Lastly, I wonder if each of the main six members is gonna have an affinity with a particular student and kind of take them under their wing, or not wing, because some of them don't have wings. Like, Rainbow Dash for Gallus would be obvious, Fluttershy for Arcellus, Pinky for Silverstream, but then the rest of them are kind of more iffy. Maybe AJ for Yona, Rarity for Smolder? We're stretching it, and Sandbar, I mean, I guess that Twilight wouldn't be as closely involved with the students, so we have Starlight instead, and maybe Sandbar is gonna have some slight villainish tendencies. Maybe. I'm still hoping for Sandbar to be something special. Well, again, complete speculation. Speaking of Starlight, Guidance Counselor, top tier. I love you, Twilight, for making that choice and making Starlight the Guidance Counselor. It's great. However, only good things to be said about Starlight, which is not a good thing, ironically. I'm getting kind of worried that Starlight has become the ultimate down-to-earth character, at least as long as she can stay impartial, as long as she's not like directly involved. And that is a problem because Starlight is also a very regular supporting character to the point where she's a main character. If she continues to serve this role of being the rational, normal, by human standards at least, character, then no other character in that episode needs to be sensible because they can't truly compete with the level of rationality that is Starlight. And that can result in those really annoying moments and that a lot of people really, really dislike, where everybody is just fighting over the idiot ball. But again, speculation, time will show, yada yada. I did absolutely love Starlight's tough love at the end of the episode. It was great. And with that, we pretty much arrive at the lesson of the week, which kind of boils down to rules inhibit you from doing what you know in your heart is right, and isn't really a good message, in my opinion. Although Twilight did write her own rulebook, which, again, is like, where did you get ideas for this rulebook? Did you just make them all up? Because that's kind of not the point. If you didn't make them all up, it has to be like pretty similar to the EEA one. And that would have been much better focus of the episode if it was about how rules and regulations need to be adjusted in the face of new methods and problems. In this case, that this school is teaching not knowledge but friendship, and it's teaching it not to just ponies but also other creatures, and adjusting what is already there to these new environment. That would have been much better, in my opinion. And, well, lastly, I guess, first impressions for production qualities of Season 8. And, like I already mentioned, some fancy magic from Naysay. That was cool to see, and I hope, from Celestia as well. And I hope we see more of that. It's always a treat for my eyes, at least. The songs, Song 1 was catchy. Song 2 was, really full of feels. Neither made a massive impression, mostly because they both had really great parts, really 10-20 seconds of just wow, and the rest of it was fine. Had no problem, but not gonna listen them on repeat for hours. Animation doesn't seem to have changed. Also, didn't seem aside from magic, didn't seem like anything fancy was going on in the premiere. So, yeah, it also hasn't gotten worse. The soundtrack was somewhat underwhelming. At no point I felt like, oh, this is some good soundtrack. I remember Shadowplay, there were moments where I was like, this is good. This is good. Well, I didn't feel it that way for this episode. I guess it also wasn't as bombastic. For composition wise, I really enjoyed that we didn't have the long trip to other races, that we had just these really cute transitions and took a minute. That was great because again, that was one of my least favorite parts of, again, Shadowplay, which is kind of on my mind because it's the most recent kind of two-parter, where the main six traveling around the world getting the artifacts. That was kind of a bit overall, not the worst premiere, not the best premiere. It was fine. Very promising, multiple times during this long thought video, I've said how I'm looking forward to a lot of stuff, and that's kind of great for a premiere to do that, to make me be I'm really, really looking forward to see what they do with this. That's great. The only thing that worries me is the large number of characters, because now we have the main six, we have Starlight taking bigger and bigger role, pretty much every episode now. We have the pillars, we have the students, we have the movie being canon. So that's a lot of characters, and I hope they don't kind of unravel this massive ball of characters and it just splashes everywhere. That would be really sad. But, yeah, again, only time will show. That's pretty much it for my thoughts. At the time of recording this, I've already seen the episode 3, because I'm recording this more than a week later, after kind of gathering my thoughts together. So yeah, gotta edit my mod episode reaction video. Just see you then, I guess.